attending the University of Montana's MFA program in September. He whistled memories from the Broadway play Cats for the 5th grade talent show. His crack band, which is not to be confused with the band on crack, is composed of Sam Miller, frontman for local band Jenny Invert, Scout McKay, a music student at Cornish, who is also a past feature here at Breadline, and my housemate, and my little sister, and Jackie Ann, a violinist extraordinaire and member of Tenderfoot. Please welcome your headlining features for the Breadline evening, J.P. Kemmick and the Musicals.
Hello. Can you guys hear this mic?
Yeah.
Or can you just hear me?
I hear mine.
Oh,
You can hear both.
In the back, can you hear her? Yeah.
What?
Barely.
Alright, maybe it's straight now.
Okay.
You can start.
Everybody back there? Good, good. Cool. Thank you guys a million times over for coming out. There's some really attractive people in the audience making me all nervous. And thank you so much to Breadline for having me, especially Alex. He wasn't exaggerating when I came to him daily, and he's helped a lot with making sure that this all came together, so big thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to read you a story, and the amazing musicians behind me are going to sing you pieces of that story. So, without further ado, here we go. It's so damn classic, this whole scene up here on the bluff. It's not like the movies where it's rocking back and forth like there's two rhinos humping in there, but you can sure as shit see the tires bouncing just a little bit, and occasionally the guy's ass or the top of his head will rise to the window level and then descend again. My buddy Jeremy and I are watching this all from a little scrubby bush about 20 feet away. I've only been back in town for a week, and Jeremy and me were just driving around to all our old haunts when we saw this car parked out here and thought we'd see what was up. Jeremy dares me to go knock on the window of the car. It's not so much a dare as a request, because he knows I'll oblige. I love fucking with people, especially with people fucking. I used to barge in on people in closets or spare bedrooms at house parties all the time. So, I go duck walking up to the car, keeping real low. I pull my hood over my head and my hat down over my forehead. There's all this broken glass everywhere from all the high school kids who come here to get shit-faced. There's even this old burned-out car. I partied up here plenty in high school. For every step I take, crunching the glass underfoot, I think of another memory. Making out with Amy Willow, the gasoline-stoked bonfire rich in our noses and on our tongues, or throwing bottles up and racing away from their wild earthbound trajectory. The car is a nice new Hyundai, one of those pseudo-SUV things with a big curvy backside. It must be some rich kid's daddy's car. I'm just a foot away now. Looking up at the car window, I can see the moon reflected, a little blurry orb smeared across the fogged-up glass. I look back at Jeremy, who gives me the double thumbs up. I take a deep breath, and then I spring upright, screaming and banging my hands on the window. Here's the thing, though. The girl in the car is a woman, like at least in her 40s. Even through the fogged-up window, I can see her clear enough because she's on the bottom, her head pressed up against the back door. I can see her soft belly and the edge of her left breast where her bra has been pushed down. Of course, she freaks out and screams too. Then she sort of bucks the guy off her like a rodeo bull, and he hits his head on the overhead light, which turns on and makes the inside of the car suddenly bright. The guy turns a little to the side, his eyes all squinty from the sudden light, so I can get a glimpse of him too. And then I turn and run, my feet kicking up pebbles and glass. I run right past Jeremy, who jumps up and starts running after me, laughing and shouting and calling for me to wait up. But I just keep running and running and running. I think I can hear the door slamming far away, followed by some deep, hollered threats I know I've heard before. They are familiar because the man in the car was my father. The woman, however, was not my mother. I am not one of those kids you hear constantly bitching about their family. However, over the years, I've come to see myself as separate from them. They're good people, good American people. They buy things at appropriate calendar intervals. They shovel the neighbor's walk. But somehow in high school, I took a step back and started watching my family, and to an extent, life in general, from a distance. I was always late to class, watching everyone in the hallway, forgetting that I was supposed to be joining them. I imagine that if most people focused on that big picture, they would come to roughly the same conclusion I did, that something is not quite right, that for some time we have all been jamming the puzzle pieces together in a desperate attempt at completion. What mild rebelliousness I did cultivate in high school was largely an attempt at distraction, at getting myself to quit looking. But then, at times, I would feel guilty for thinking less of my family than they deserved. They recycle. They love me. They take turns reading to my little sister at night. But now, with the image of last night circling through my brain, I feel vindicated, that my vague undercurrent of doubt was justified all along. Now my mother, father, and I are attending my little sister's play, an end-of-the-year thing they always do in her school's gym. She's finishing up 5th grade this year, and the theme is safari. My little sister, Lainey, plays the part of some kind of jungle princess. I'm half paying attention, half watching my father stroking my mom's hand with his thumb. I imagine the skin of another woman under that thumbnail, my father holding her tight, digging in. Lainey's big end of the production number comes up. The song, at this point, is extremely familiar. She's been singing it at home non-stop for the past week. I force my eyes away from my parents' hands and to the stage.
Once I was a princess, queen of faraway land. Everything I wanted would come at the wave of my hand. But now I am the jungle queen, swinging on the vines, living in the wild, all of the forest and sky. Late at night, I see faces from before. Everything that used to be on the palace floor, but never mind. Look at me now. I am the jungle queen, the animals bow.
The play ends, with all the animals circled around and bowing to my princess sister. Lainey really belts it out, and I think that maybe I can shape her into something stronger than our mother. If I thought my mother was stronger, like she had any sense of real power, I'd have run right home last night and told her everything. But she is essentially too weak, too, good. She takes on my father's interests like they are hers, like she hadn't thought to go look for her own before he came along. So I'm waiting now. I have to figure out how to do this right, to make sure she knows without a doubt that her husband cannot be let off the hook for this, that he must answer for his failure. Then everyone is clapping and the play is over. We walk up to the stage, ducking under the crepe paper vines and the cardboard lion's heads that jut from the walls. My little sister comes running up to us. She's got on this too big safari hat, and she's carrying a stick with a plush lion's head on top. My father extends his arms wide and sings,
When I was a princess in a faraway land.
to which my sister sings back,
Now I am the jungle queen,
My dad scoops her up and throws her on his shoulders, her ratty safari hat wobbling as it comes in contact with a papery vine. He treats her like an angel. But I bet the minute she turns into a teenager, into even the semblance of a woman with her own ideas, he starts trying to whittle her down to size. She holds up the lion's head, stick like a scepter, and sings,
I will never talk again, I will only sing.
If my daughter must sing, then so must I.
my father sings. I realize I'm not sure I've ever heard my father sing before, which is preposterous, because I'm sure I've heard him sing along to the radio or something at some point. But hearing him now, backed only by the shuffling of bodies, the background chatter, and the screeching of chairs across the floor, he sounds different. Really, he sounds good, wavering between a tenor and bass, which is somehow frustrating. I've always had this theory that naturally talented people have it the worst because they're given too many free passes in life. I count my father a multi-talented person among them. He has reshingled our roof, coached high school basketball, brewed his own beer. He is the life of parties, and he has a smile that says that that will not be changing anytime soon.
Onward we go.
My sister sings, holding the lion's head high. We march out of the room like this, like some demented, overly cheery Von Trapp family marching band. In the parking lot, my dad deposits Lainey into the back seat, and my mom buckles her in.
You were great, honey.
She
Sing it,
says,
Mom. You were truly fabulous, like a true-to-life princess.
she softly sings to her. Then Lainey turns her little face to me and stares me down with pursed lips and a tilted head. Nice job, sis.
No, you have to sing it.
I tell her I can't sing, which prompts my father to start us on a sing-along round of row, row, row your boat. Lainey picks it up next, and then my mother chimes in. But when it's my turn, I stay quiet, and in this fashion, we row our people down the streets toward home. My father and Lainey sing through dinner, phrases like,
Please pass the mashed potatoes.
But please hold the peas.
even though we weren't having any peas. At night, I can hear Lainey and my father singing in the bathroom, their voices garbled by their toothbrushes. I hear my mother turn off the TV downstairs, and pretty soon after, the house goes quiet. I lay in bed, thinking about things. I'm tired, but I'm fending off sleep because I hate falling asleep when I'm feeling this low. I tend to have these awful dreams where I wake up crying. Also, for some reason that probably has more to do with sleep deprivation than with courage, I'm often at my most stupidly brave when I'm in this mode. So, in this groggy state, I get the idea that I can just go knock on my parents' door right now. I will politely ask for my mother to come out into the hallway. I might even hold her hand to guide her. I will sit her down at the kitchen table in our dark and silent house to tell her in simple, honest language that her husband is cheating on her. If I were not so tired and feeling so generally mopey, I would know that this plan is awful, that it has no chance of succeeding. In this plan, my mother is sleepwalking, trailing after me until I can wake her with the bad news. But I am tired and therefore full of dumb courage. So I get up out of bed and tiptoe down the hallway. Lainey's song is still cycling through my head, and I place my feet one in front of the other to its tune, like it is instructing my pace down the hallway. It guides me until I end up standing in front of my parents' bedroom door. A nightlight on the wall gives off a faint glow, which makes my feet look a sickly green. My heartbeat is so loud, I'm afraid it might knock on the door for me. I raise my hand and ball it into a fist. Then, in the absolute stillness, I hear a sound coming from the other side of the door. it is the rustling of sheets, and then, soon after, the steady, muted, cushioned sounds of my parents having sex. It sounds almost melodious, the rhythmic mattress anchoring the production, the sheets shifting with added percussion. Because I am confused, angry, and tired, I sit down outside their door, right there on the other side, and the previous night thrusts itself back into my head. Little pieces of last night add their music to the sounds behind the door. My feet crunching on the glass up to the car, my knees creaking as I crouch under the window, then the rising crescendo of alarming scream and flail. Then my memory of the passion in the car combines with the suddenly mounting passion on the other side of the bedroom door, so that all I can hear is this ridiculous, infuriating, orgasmic symphony. I might be right now the angriest pervert in the world. I jump to my feet and walk back down the hallway, nowhere near as quiet as I should be. Needing to get out of the house, I walk down the stairs and out the front door. The cool night air like unspooled cotton blanketing my ears, helping to mute the unbearable music. I sleep late the next day because I didn't crawl back into bed until 4 in the morning. But the second I set foot downstairs, Lainey comes running up to me.
At long last, my brother is awake. Now the show can finally begin.
She sings at me, and then grabs onto my sweatpants and tugs me to the living room, where a number of blankets have been draped over the backs of chairs. My mom is sitting on the couch, and she pats the cushion next to her. I take a seat, and Lainey disappears behind the mountain range of blankets.
They've been working on this all morning.
My mother whispers to me. Suddenly, my dad and Lainey pop up from behind the curtains, both of them wearing newspaper pirate hats. The blankets are apparently the sea, not the mountains. Smiling every time Lainey spits out another "Arr." But it's tainted by my father's face, lit up in the backseat of the car, his cheeks red from the exertion of loving another woman. Next, they produce swords made out of clothes hangers and cardboard paper towel tubes.
I'll chop, chop, chop you in two, throw you into the ocean blue.
My father sings.
You stupid old coot, you can chop off your own food.
Lainey retorts. They clash their makeshift swords together for a bit and sing some more about treasure maps and far-flung islands. And then they come up on the final number, where suddenly they are friends.
Split up 50-50, wouldn't that be nifty?
My father sings. I can't help but think that this is how he is splitting my mother, and that no, it is not nifty.
Let's give up our fight. First, set out at first light. For this treasure to be found. You old dirty hound.
Lady sings. And then they turn toward their audience of two, join hands and take a bow, Lainey momentarily dipping behind the waves of blankets. My mother begins clapping enthusiastically, and then all of a sudden, before I can stop myself, my mouth is opening, and I am joining in with the whole charade. I am singing. Dad is having an affair. My father's face immediately goes blank, his smile flattening out, his hand releasing Lainey's. My mother turns to me, confused. I again open my mouth, and again, for some reason, maybe because singing it seems to make it less real, seems to slip it into this melodic family we have suddenly become, I sing out the news to my own invented tune. I saw him the other night in the backseat of a car with another woman. I mean it, he is cheating on you. I caught him in the act. I don't have her name or anything else, but...
That's enough.
My father sings, just barely. I look at my mom, who now looks like she is on the verge of some great destruction, like the first arrows have been fired in what will be a years-long siege. We are stuck in song, in this limbo between realities. I'm sorry, croak out to her, the song almost gone from my voice.
Son, you have no idea what you are doing.
My father sings at me. Somehow, in all my imagined scenarios, I fail to insert my father into the scene. But I am undaunted. I spring back into the game, but my father doesn't give up. So we're now yelling over each other, just the slightest hint of song still in our voices. Don't you go trying to blame me for you fucking up.
You think you can just come back into my house and throw around wild
I know things, Dad. I'm not your idiot son.
You spent a few months in college and think you know anything?
Then suddenly, above my father and I, my mother's voice pierces through, stronger than I could have ever imagined. She sings it. It is obvious, because she has to. Because if she had tried to speak over us, she would have failed, because we are being overly loud men. My dad and I stop shouting, and we hear Lainey sniffling now, tears falling on her cheeks and wetting the imaginary sea.
This is my family too.
My mother sings again, so softly now it is almost a whisper.
When was the last time anyone took that into consideration?
She looks at my father and me, her head swiveling back and forth. Then she walks behind the sea, picks Lainey up, and together the women in our family leave the room. We have chased them out. I am still breathing hard. I look up at my father, whose boat of a chest is heaving, rising in swells like the blankets might be churning in a stormy sea. I stand up and I clench my fists. I know I am not a perfect son, but I was only trying to do right. He is the one who has screwed everything up. I walk up to him, a fist holstered on each hip. He stands there unmoving, looking right at me, and it feels good, as if he knows he's cornered, that he can't cover this up with more fake cheer. I take 2 more steps toward him, and I raise one of my fists. I am going to hit my father in the mouth. I swing my fist, but it refuses to go full speed, refuses to be a real punch. It lands on his chest like a light knocking, as if I am only asking to be let in. And then my other fist joins it, and then my head resting between my clenched fingers. And then he puts his big hands on the top of my head, and we stand this way, like a monument to the disappointment of fathers and sons everywhere, to our failure to grasp the melody.